In today's video, I'm going to walk you through exactly when, who, and how to hire help for your e-commerce business, because the reality is that 7 and 8 figure e-commerce businesses know that they must hire physical people, physical help in order for them to get to the next level. And so this is going to be based off my personal experience. I've been in e-commerce for 13 years. I co-founded an e-commerce business with my brother in 2013. We started from the kitchen bench. That business has since gone on to grow to multiple 7 figures per year. And I've also helped a couple of hundred other e-commerce businesses in our formal paid community called the Ecom Blueprint program. So this is something that we have gone through in depth about hiring help, how to do it, when to do it, and obviously who we can hire for it. So let's get stuck into it. So firstly, the really important thing to know is that we must hire physical help. We must remove ourselves at some point using technology, using systems and processes, and also inevitably using people. So the first realization is to say, well, look, if I want to actually grow and scale my business, this is going to be something that's going to come up for me. Even if I don't necessarily feel like I want to have my business automated fully and have no one that I have to look after, it's an inevitability really that we must hire help. So that's the first thing. The second thing comes to when we should hire help, because we certainly don't want to be hiring help too early. There's going to be issues that come across there in terms of capacity and cash flow, etc. And we don't want to hire too late, because that's when it really impacts on how far and fast we can scale. So the point at which you want to hire somebody is really when your activities, when your workload is negatively impacting on your growth potential. So what that basically means is if you're doing all the things yourself personally and it's detracting away from building the business and building your sales volume, then that's the point that you actually need some help. Because what you actually need to do is buy back your time from somebody else so that you can then go and put that into revenue generating activity. So for example, when we all start out in our businesses, we have 0 sales, 0 customers, 0 things to fulfill, right? So we spend most, if not all of our time on revenue generating activities, marketing mostly. And as we get sales through the door, that time of allocation going to sales and marketing actually starts to counter into fulfillment and customer service and all these other things until we hit a point, we almost hit a cap of, well, I'm not doing much marketing at all, and all my time is in fulfillment or production or similar efforts that aren't actually generating more sales and more revenue. So it's at that point where you see that you're sacrificing way too much time on revenue generating activities on other things such as, I say, the production, customer service, even socials, all those sort of mundane things that don't move the needle. So that's the point that you need to recognize. And it's not going to be blaringly obvious. It's something you need to keep your finger on the pulse with, because the evolution of every business is what we call scale and breakage. And typically at those breakage points, it might be some sort of production issue. For us, it was like machinery, for example, but most of the time it's going to be labor. So someone to actually take something off of your plate as the founder. So you want to know exactly what that point is, and as I say, keep your finger on the pulse about what that point actually is. Where your sales and your progress starts to dip, that is the point at where you need to actually get some help with your business. And a really cool tip that we actually give is to really track your time. Okay, this might sound kind of obvious, but we need to track exactly what we do throughout the day. So we recommend you use just honestly a Google Sheet, track every half an hour of your time that you are basically awake, and you will see exactly where your time is going, because we like to think we have a good idea in our minds about where our time goes, but in reality, it can be completely different. So we want to track how much time we're spending on each activity, even personal type stuff, so that we can see any disproportion of our time to your revenue generating activities to other things that we're doing within our business. And that will give you a really clear understanding of like, well, yeah, I need to spend more time over here. What can I either sacrifice or reallocate time to, or make that next hire that someone can take that off my plate. So here are some principles that we abide by when it comes to hiring. Once you've made the decision to hire, this is what we need to consider. The first thing is hiring when it hurts. That's basically what I just explained in terms of when it's hurting your business, when you are basically sacrificing sales or foregoing sales and progress to fulfill and do other things that aren't revenue generating, then that's when we need to do it, when it hurts. When you've maxed out your time, you can't possibly squeeze anything more, you can't possibly get any more efficient, that's when we need to hire exactly when it hurts. You know you can't do any more with your time. The second thing is, which is almost counter or can be counter to what I just mentioned, is that we can only hire when we can afford to do so. All right, so you need to have an affordable amount of cash stacked for that particular person or hire to have an allowance, right? We don't want to be so stretched financially that we're just going to hire someone and then immediately have to get rid of them. That's just completely inefficient and time and resource wasting. So I would recommend you have at least 2 to 3 months worth of spare cash where you're not banking on that person or that hire making you money in that immediate, so that you can train them, make sure they have everything down pat, oversee them, and make sure that they're fully functioning. So we're taking that 1 step back to 2 steps forward. So only hire when you've got the cash to do so. The third thing is mitigating risk. So it's typical for us as business owners to think, I've got to hire this big person, this big responsibility, lots of taxes, lots of red tape, lots of responsibility. But we have the ability or the advantage to actually mitigate risk. So we basically want to hire, let's call it people on contractor relationships, where we can hire and fire as needs or quite quickly, have flexibility with that. Now, a big thing that we need to do is firstly set expectations. So you can say to somebody when you do go and hire them, look, this is going to be a trial period. We're going to do it for 7 days. It might be 30 days, whatever you deem to be reasonable. We're going to do training daily. We're going to do all these things. And by the end of that 30-day trial, we'll decide whether we want to move forward or not. Now, I would also have an agreement in place here with this person so that you can have the conversation and then a physical agreement that you're actually signing off on, so that you're both on the same page. So that if something happens, this has happened to us, it's happened to many people. I mean, it's kind of rare that you get it right the first time. It helps you really have those hard conversations that it's you as the person, you're a great person, you want to support people, but then it's the business and the business needs and their role within the business. So it really takes that awkwardness out of saying like you're just not a good fit. It's got to be tangible into how they fit in with your business, and if it's not a good fit for you, they can leave. If it's not a good fit for them, they can leave. You need that flexibility and risk mitigation. If you don't have that, if you're not prepared for that, that's when you can feel really daunted in this process, and also you could be stuck with somebody unnecessarily. Then when it comes to the pay side of things, honestly, you might look at what the industry rate kind of is, you might look at what you can afford to pay, but we typically like to ask that person for the particular role what they think is a reasonable amount to be paid, right? You can just get their expectation there. You can either match it or meet them there, or you can increase it or decrease it as needs. You can even start on a lower rate, for example, and after the 30-day trial period, you can increase it. You can work out what that might look like for you, but you need to make sure it works for your business, that you're getting the value for your money, or you can see a tangible return on that hourly, weekly, or monthly rate. But the point being is to not have yourself locked in. As I say, that's a really big barrier for people hiring help, is that they feel like they will be locked in if they go and engage someone to help them with their business. Alongside that, we mitigate the risk, and we also want to have an abundance mindset when it comes to hiring. So when I say abundance, I just mean that there's lots of people out there that can help you. There's not just that one unicorn, that one perfect person. If I hire this person, they're the best. They're the be all and end all. And if I lose them, I'll be lost without them. Okay, so we really need to go into this effort with an abundance mindset, knowing that there's many people that can do this role, and that if this doesn't work out for the first, second, third, fourth person, there's still more people that can come through and will be better than that previous person that you had. So you need to understand that and be prepared that we might have to get through a few people to get to the one that is right for you and your business, and you work well together. Another consideration too is what I call filling the void. So sometimes before we make big decisions such as hiring, we might be like, oh, there's only a couple of things that they could do here and there. There's only, maybe an hour or two per day that they could fulfill. And that can be okay, because what you do is you want to force yourself to some extent to fill that void, right? To actually feed them with work, to forcefully take things off of your plate, to give it to that person that you actually go and hire. This also allows space for you to fill that excess time with more revenue generating activities or business development activities, which inevitably grows the business. So if you can understand that you're creating a void in a cash and time capacity so that you can then fill it, that will make way for them to be much more valuable asset to you, and you'll be sitting on the other side in a few months' time saying, I wish I had done this earlier. Again, another important consideration is that they are a good fit for you and their team. Kind of like with the abundance that I just mentioned, they need to be a good fit. You need to be honestly good people, and you need to enjoy working with them, because you have that luxury that you can hire whoever you want, and it should be a pleasure. I once had a circumstance where I hired a VA, a virtual assistant, and there was just something not quite right. I didn't quite get along with them in the sense of there's nothing wrong, but it was just something felt off. Honestly, it was very much intuition and experience that told me that this person wasn't the right fit. But what started to happen, or how I started to notice that, was I actually started to resent their actions and their attitude, right? And that was at the point where I was like, no, I don't have to actually deal with this. I have a choice. I can let them go. In fact, it's probably in fairness that I do let them go, so as to not be resentful towards them and make it a bad situation for all of us. So it's acceptable to actually go through these things and understand that nobody is perfect. As I say, you're not going to get it right the first time. And we just need to know that we have the flexibility and risk mitigation to make steps forward if it's not the right fit for us. So the next really important consideration is who to hire. So firstly, the positions to hire for. We recommend that as business owners, you should be a full stack business owner. That means that you have skills in every area of your business. And if you do, and you should, then your hires should be taking the lowest activities off of your plate first. Okay, that might be production, it might be fulfillment, it might be picking and packing, it might be just simple social media uploading or blog uploading, not necessarily the content creation side of things. It's the non-revenue generating activities, the low cost generating activities, because then you can take your $20 to $30 an hour tasks down the bottom there, hire someone to do that, and push to the $200, $300, $400, $500 an hour task, which is the marketing side of things, business development, product development, etc. So we want to hire from the bottom to the top is how I call it. And that again allows you to have lower costs, meaning lower costs for labor, lower barriers to getting these people trained up in terms of the skills required and the time required. And then again, with the abundance, there's a plethora of people out there that can do these jobs. They're easily replaceable. So they're the three main reasons why we say you start from the bottom and go to the top, because you want to allow yourself or free yourself to spend way more time at those top activities, marketing harder, mastering ads, mastering content, mastering anything that you know drives revenue and sales, so that they can take care of the bottom activities of your business, so to speak. So then in physically, like who you should hire, we hire family and friends first. Honestly, just in our circles, it was friends that were playing football or university or went to school with, whatever it might be, just asking your networks first who would be available to come in and help with the business is the best way to start. They're trusted, they're typically reliable, but then also a complication might come in about the personal to business side of things. So again, that's where the risk mitigation, right? Having agreements, having conversations with people about this is how it's going to go, this is what we expect, are really, really important, because it's hard to get rid of people that know you and like you and trust you if things aren't quite right. But if you've had that conversation up front, this is my business, this is how we do things, here's an agreement, this is what we're going to do, right? We'll remain friends if it does or does not work out, then that's totally fine. That's how it should be worked around. But if we don't have the hard conversations first, or we don't set the expectations first, that's when it gets harder and harder and harder along the way if things aren't actually working out, which we've absolutely been through and people go through all the time. But first port of call is certainly friends and family about who you can hire. And they're easy to train, as I say, reliable. It's a lot of fun at those stages as well, and easy to get them on board as well. A secondary thing is you can look at marketplaces. Honestly, you can just go on community job boards, you can go on Facebook groups, whatever it might be, just asking people if they need a position. And again, that's why it's really easy to hire for these positions, because there's a lot of people out there that are willing to learn. It's more about attitude than it is about skills at these points in time, because you can train them. You're going to put in the time to train them and the effort and resources. So that's all the easy thing. And you really want to find just the right person who you get along with. Another thing too, you can hire students, right? There's a lot of university boards. We used something called Pedestrian TV back in the day, and that was basically a university job board where people wanted internships and in trade for, I guess, references and experience. And we didn't pay them, or we paid them very little, but that was all part of the arrangement. So you can get free help even for anything like content creation or social media marketing type thing as well. Even the labor within the business as well, and depending on what sort of business that they are in or industry that they are in, they'll be really grateful for the experience and obviously the reference as well. And then on above that, obviously online platforms. So we use Upwork. I really recommend Upwork as opposed to Fiverr. I've never used Fiverr, but I've heard bad experiences. Just with Fiverr, that's just a personal thing. So Upwork is the platform to go to for us, and that's where you can very specifically post a job and people will charge on hourly rates. All right, so that's I've had a lot of great relationships we still use for things that are mundane. It might be editing these videos, for example. It might be hiring a VA. It might be anything that is those lower value activities that will relieve hours of your time per week that is really crucial to you doing the high level things such as producing this type of content. So they're kind of the fundamentals about how we basically hire, okay? When to do it, how to do it, what to bear in mind in terms of the principles, and obviously who. Because if we get this wrong, it can really cost us. Like, firstly, getting it wrong is not doing anything at all. When you know you need to hire someone, when you know you need help, you'll be sitting there spinning your wheels in terms of your progress for months or years. Really bad position to be in. And a lot of people, most people I'd say, never get off the start line because they're scared and afraid of what might happen if they make the wrong hire. if they don't fill the void, if they just do something completely wrong and they can't get rid of someone. So using those principles by mitigating that risk, right? Having the agreement in place, setting the expectations, knowing that you can hire and fire, hiring from the bottom to the top, it will give you a lot of flexibility and ease and grace to doing things wrong, which we inevitably do. But go in with your eyes wide open, go in with an abundance mindset and mentality that this is not permanent, someone's not around forever if you don't want them to be, and you set yourself up formally with that agreement and expectation setting to allow for that risk mitigation. So I would say that you just have to go and do it. At that point that I mentioned, that inflection point where things are breaking, you need the help, you need to just take the action and do it, because you're not going to progress without people power in your business. So the first thing is obviously just to go and do it. The second thing is to measure it. Okay, know that you're getting the return on your investment. You'll see that by the hours that people are saving you that you can go and put into revenue generating activities. Obviously learn from it, iterate it, and continue to build your team outwards as you are able to delegate and train more and more tasks off your plate. But really crucial activity, really crucial to get right, but more importantly, to start to implement, start to action. And you'll feel your way through it. You'll get way more confident and comfortable, especially with having those challenging conversations. So that's what I wanted to go through, and I hope that was valuable for you. If you want to know how we help e-commerce businesses scale their brands, hitting their first 10K all the way up to 100K per month and everything in between, you can jump into the link below. It explains a little bit more about what we do. If you enjoyed this video, if you got value from this video, I'd love a thumbs up, I'd love a subscribe, and any comments, feel free to drop them below, and I'll absolutely read them and take notice of them, because I'm producing content like this all the time. But other than that, thank you for being here. Appreciate you watching towards the end, and again, hope you got value from it, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.